How you doing, everybody? Today we're taking a quick look at The Conjuring Last Rites. This was directed by Michael Chaves and stars Patrick Wilson and Vera Farmiga as Ed and Lorraine Warren. Most of the movie takes place in 1986, after the Warrens have largely winded down their careers as paranormal investigators. They are still giving lectures, which are sparsely attended, I assume because at this point most people think they're full of shit. They are called out of retirement after their daughter Judy is somehow drawn to the haunting of the Smurl family in Pennsylvania, and they have to exorcise one last demon. And then they can disappear into obscurity until James Wan starts making movies about them. I'm sure I've said this before, but I am a fan of the mainline Conjuring franchise, and I say this as someone who does not believe the Warren stories. I consider the movies to be works of fiction and nothing more, especially the second movie. I believe I read somewhere that the real version of the Warrens' involvement in the Enfield haunting story is they turned up at the Enfield house uninvited and were asked to leave. The end. Even if you believe the Warrens are legit, these movies are not documentaries at all. They are very loosely based on true stories. I don't enjoy the Conjuring movies because I think they are totally true stories. I enjoy them because they do a very good job of setting up a creepy atmosphere instead of relying on jump scares. They do have occasional jump scares, but they don't overdo it, and I appreciate that. I still have not seen most of the Conjuring spin-offs. I have seen the first Annabelle movie, which I thought sucked, but I've heard the Annabelle sequels got better, so one of these days I need to get around to watching them. I also have not seen either of the Nun movies, but I have heard that they are movies. I believe this is meant to be the final entry in the Conjuring franchise, at least in the main line, and I think instead of Last Rites, a better title would have been, Oh Hell No! Because that's what I kept saying. There's a lady doing the laundry in her basement, and she turns around, and in a dark corner of the room, she sees this creepy Marilyn Manson-looking motherfucker with a hatchet. Oh, hell no! In any case, I think it's a good thing that this is the last movie in the Conjuring franchise, because while I have enjoyed the movies up to this point, including this one, I think we're getting to the point where it's run its course. The third movie was not as good as the first two, and frankly, neither is this. And there are only so many ways you can tell a story of the same two people investigating a haunted house. They are starting to feel kinda samey, and it's probably time to wrap it up before it really gets stale. And 4 movies for any franchise is a damn good run. It is nice to see Wilson and Farmiga play these characters one last time. They know these roles very well at this point, and they work very well together. And I do appreciate that they at least tried to do something a little different with Last Rites, even if the execution wasn't always there. In this movie, we have much more involvement from Ed and Lorraine's daughter Judy, who apparently had a very complicated birth and barely survived. And when this movie shows baby Judy being born, I believe the caption said 1964, which is interesting because I'm pretty sure the real Judy was born in 1946. And maybe I misread the caption, but if I didn't, that's a bit of an oops. And I find that interesting considering they recast Judy because they thought the original actress did not look old enough to play the now grown-up Judy, and if the movie is claiming Judy was born in 64, she absolutely was old enough to play Judy in 86. And if we're going with her actual birth year of 1946, the new actress, Mia Tomlinson, is absolutely not old enough, so either way, I think they screwed up here. In any case, Judy seems to have inherited some of her mother's clairvoyant ability, but she's not as good as controlling it as Lorraine, and that seriously messes with her head, and I thought Tomlinson did a very good job of portraying that trauma that Judy is constantly going through. She's really good in this. And she had a convincing American accent too, as did most of the cast. In fact, I think Wilson and Farmiga may have been the only actual American actors in the movie. The movie also shows Ed and Lorraine in the too old for this shit phase of their career, Ed especially, as apparently he has already suffered one heart attack, and his doctor warns him he needs to take his health seriously because a second heart attack will almost certainly end it for him. And honestly, I wish they had done a little bit more with that, because the movie doesn't make his heart condition look all that serious until the very end. There's a moment where the demon that's haunting the Smurl house attacks him, and it seems like he's about to have another heart attack, and he fumbles in his pocket for this pill case, which I assume is full of aspirin, and there's this moment where the pills dramatically spill down the stairs in slow motion, and he finally is able to grab one and swallow it. Dry swallowing it, of course, because that's what they always do in movies. It's weird. And after he takes that aspirin, he's fine. And I'm like, really? The movie was building up to that? I mean, I wasn't expecting him to die, although that would have been a hell of a twist considering the real Ed Warren didn't die until, I think, 2006. But I just wanted a bit more. Like the previous Conjuring movies, they do a very good job of creating a creepy atmosphere and really ramping up the tension as the movie goes on. And like I said, there is a lot of "oh hell no" in this movie. And most of the "oh hell no" works very well, but there were a couple of moments that kinda lost me. There was a moment where they kind of tried to tie Annabelle into the story, which didn't make a whole lot of sense considering Annabelle had nothing to do with the Smurl haunting. It just seemed like fan service for the sake of it. But I did think most of the scares were well done. One moment in particular that sticks out to me is a scene where the Smurl sisters try to get rid of this creepy haunted mirror that they think has been causing all these problems in their house. And without giving too much away, the scene shows why just destroying a haunted artifact doesn't always solve the problem, and in fact, it can make it worse. And I should point out the Smurls do have a dog, and of course the dog realizes something is up with the house before any of the humans do, and no, the dog does not die. There is a scene where something happens to the dog, but don't worry, he's fine. Overall, it's not the best entry in the franchise, and like I said, it is probably good that they're wrapping it up, but it's still a solid horror movie. If you're a fan of the Conjuring franchise, I do think this is at least worth a matinee, although I will say you do not necessarily need to see the previous Conjuring movies to enjoy this one. In fact, that's true of all the Conjuring movies. They stand on their own just fine. And that's all I have to say about The Conjuring Last Rites. Till next time, take care.